Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of Freedom Friday here on the Hot Picture Education Network YouTube channel. I was always your host here, the Hot Patriot, and for today's episode, we're going to talk about Vivek going full India, Trump going full 90's Democrat, and Omar going full apple cider vinegar in her bullshit attack. We're also going to discuss specifically the virus going around Nepal right now, which apparently is basically what they wanted COVID to be back in the day. And yeah, it's no joke. The mortality rate on that thing is like pretty much 100%, it seems like now. And it's really why we need to shut down international travel from that country, and like any way that tries to hip hop through that country is what it is there, or whatever. Like, I would say, honestly, if we're smart as a country right now, as America, we just shut down all international travel for the next like 6 months or something. And it would have to be like very restrictive for anybody who wants to come in here, is what it is then. Like, yeah, it might fuck our economy a little bit, but like at the same time, like, I'd rather be cautious on this one, just so it can't jump like that. Because that was the thing with COVID, right? Like, people always talked about that and shit, and it was like, oh yeah, it's here, it's whatever the case be. And like, they were acting like it just came or whatever then. When in reality, it was really festering in our society for like 2 years because of international travel, as it was. And maybe even 3 or 4 years, actually. But the entire point of the matter is that it was here long before they said it was. And this is why, honestly, unless you shut down international travel from countries that are obviously like, these countries of origin for these viruses and stuff like that, when it first gets talked about, like, it's going to come through. That's what it is. Like, you're not going to stop it because you're going to have some patient zero from that country either come directly from that country through an international airport here in America, or it's going to be a situation where they then like hop to another flight. They get on a flight from Nepal to, Brazil or something like that, and they come through Brazil is what it is then. And meanwhile, they're infecting people over there now is what it is, or something. I'm just using Brazil as like obviously a placeholder. It could be any country, honestly. It could be Nepal to China for all I know. It could be Nepal to, Southeast Asia or something like that. It could be Nepal to Korea. Like basically Nepal to South Korea to, America or something like that is what it is then. Or even to Britain for that matter. So yeah, it's definitely not good, and it definitely needs to be shut the fuck down while it still can be, basically. So, but anyway, other than that, we're going to talk about a few other things today. Obviously, I'll just talk about it real quick for the Omar thing. It's already been proven that the syringe that guy used was apple cider vinegar. And it just shows how staged that whole thing was, honestly, because truth be told, if somebody was really going to do an attack on somebody like that, that's what it is. Number one being the fact that Omar comes from a shithole cult of Islam that likes to acid attack people on a regular basis. Let's say that syringe was filled with acid or something in it. Like, let's say it was a for real attack, or whatever the case being, there was like acid or something in there. You're not just going to spray somebody in the arm with that shit. You're going to go directly for the fucking face is what it is. Or in that case, really what it is like, my understanding is what they do now. A lot of these Islam followers and stuff like that over in the UK and stuff, what they'll do is they'll go and take a little cup of some kind. Like, I don't know if it's like a plastic cup or if it's like a styrofoam cup, what it is, where the shit isn't fully melting through it or whatever, though. And they'll fill it up with like, I don't know, maybe like that much or something in it. And then they'll just walk up to like some random woman on the sidewalk and just douse her right in the face with this, what it is there. So yeah, I would think if that was like a real attack on Omar, it'd be the same kind of situation there as what it is or something. Which it obviously wasn't. It was her basically staging a whole attack on herself to basically get sympathy. Meanwhile, and probably distract away from what's actually going on with her is what it is, which is basically the day before this whole thing happened, she was being investigated by the DOJ for fraud and stuff like that is what it was there in Minnesota. And not only Minnesota, but also like how she went from being $174,000 a year congresswoman, and in 6 years was able to accumulate like $30 or $40 million is what it is to her own personal wealth is what it is there. So highly suspicious in general. Definitely inside trading going on there. Definitely all kinds of other shady shit, and probably Somali daycare fraud would be my guess, honestly, on this one, and whatever else kind of fraud is going on there in Minnesota. She probably got a kind of that, obviously, from the people in her district because she was helping them do the stuff. And that Legally Armed America guy pointed out a good thing when he was doing his stream the other day about it, and he was basically pointing out the IQ and the retardation IQ of Somalia is what it is, with their average IQ being like 67 to 68 is what it is there. And so you think about that, that's like the top end. For them as an average, like, it might be a little bit higher than that, honestly. It could be something where it's like, let's say Omar's like 80 or something like that is what it is there. But that's the thing, though. Like, most of us in America here, our average IQ with all these retards in it is basically like 95 or 100 is what it is right now. So without them in it, we could easily be, 120, 130, 150, even for that matter. I have no idea how high my IQ is. I'm guessing it's well over 100, though, is what it is. And yeah, like, you look at people like me, man, like, we're not going to be fooled by these dumb motherfucking low IQ dipshits like Omar is what it is, dude. And as that Paul guy brought up, he was mentioning how when it comes to these people, they think you're just as stupid as they are. And then not only that, but then you'll also fall for their bullshit. And that's also why it seems like low IQ people end up being arrested and, pretty much then catch charges and stuff like that and get prosecuted and end up being in prison. That's what it is, because their stories keep changing on things. Like I said, they're just creating like a believable story to begin with. They're just like, oh yeah, it was like this big or that big, or whatever the case be. It's kind of like the old fisherman's tale kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, I got this bass. It was like 20 pounds. Oh, that bass story I told you like 5 years ago? Oh, it actually was like 25 pounds or something. Like, it's shit like that, basically. So it's like the most unbelievable crap, honestly, and it's because it's lies is what it is, because they're just stupid is what it is then. So, but anyway. But yeah, that being said, so that's basically with that whole thing, and now you got Omar trying to blame Trump and claim like Trump needs to provide for security and all this other bullshit is what it is. It's like, no, he needs to provide you a one-way ticket back to Somalia, bitch, because you shouldn't even be in this fucking country, because your terrorist ass was literally part of Black Hawk Down. And that alone should have disqualified you from ever being in this nation ever. Or your shithole family, for that matter, because your fucking father's part of that crap too, is what it was. I'm going to go into that for a minute. Here's what it is. For those that don't know, Black Hawk Down, the military situation / terror attack, you might as well call it there, in Mogadishu, Somalia, back in 93, I believe is what it was. At the time, he basically had a military operation going on there. They were trying to get a leadership regime out of power that was basically illegally holding powers, basically warlords holding powers, what it was at the time there. The problem is pieces of shit like Bill Clinton, who were the president at the time, didn't bother giving them the ability to have Navy support, which is what they needed to have in this whole thing. And it wouldn't have been the clusterfuck that ended up being then. So basically what ended up happening was you had Rangers and so Army Rangers, Marines, and then a couple other like units like that's what it was, using Black Hawk helicopters and then like little birds and stuff like that's what it was there. Like, you can go and watch the movie Black Hawk Down. That basically explains the whole thing is what it is there. It's a pretty good rendition of that whole thing is what it is. So basically, or you can even just go to watch the Sean Ryan podcast with Mike Durant, the guy who actually survived the crash and then being kidnapped by the Somalis for like a month is what it was. He did a pretty good rundown of what happened there is what it was too as well, as a survivor and as somebody who was on the ground is what it was there when it happened. So basically, at the time though, you had Omar. She was a child soldier under her father's regime, or I should say under her father's leadership is what it was. Her father's leadership was under the regime of what was in power at the time then. And basically, they end up sneaking into America is what it was. And this bullshit that Clinton added back in his administration, where it was basically after the fact, it was like, oh yeah, let's import some of these people, whatever the case being. She just happened to be one of the ones that was imported is what it was then. When in reality, they should have never been brought into this country ever is what it was. And specifically her ass should have been banned for life from ever entering American soil is what it was then, because of her ties to the regime at the time, because of her ties to terrorism, etc. There's what it was. And I also want to point something out too for that matter, which is basically, it's been proven now that since the 9/11 attacks happened back on 9/11, 2001, Twin Towers being, planes going into them and stuff like that, and then obviously the controlled demolition of stuff like that is what it was then with Building 7. almost every single Islam follower currently in America here in 2026 has come in since 2003 or so, give or take. So they've only been here like 23 years max, is what it is. And that's the problem right now. And that's really the biggest threat to America currently is Islam. Like, we need to get rid of the shit root and stem, dude. It needs to be a complete ban of Islam from U.S. soil forever. We kick these people out. If they refuse to go, we fucking take them out by gunpoint tyranny is what it is at that point. You know, you force them on a fucking planet gunpoint, military gunpoint, whatever the case be, it doesn't matter. And you deal with them that way is what it is then. And that being said, moving on to the next topic, which is Trump going full 90's Democrat this week. So basically, since that Alex Purdy shooting, which, you know, people are trying to justify it, which it can't be justified now, is what it is, because the guy was definitely a hardcore Antifa motherfucker without calling himself Antifa, is what it was. None of them are calling themselves Antifa anymore because it's been declared a terrorist organization by Trump and his administration. And because of that, now they're just basically calling themselves like leftist protesters and stuff like that, or whatever the case be. But really, they're Antifa is what it is there. And so there was a video that came out like the other day, that was like a week before he ended up getting fatally shot by the ICE agents. And it was basically him trying to fight them and then like kicking out their vehicle and kicking out one of their taillights and stuff like that. That's what it was. Like, the guy was a violent nutcase is what it is. They probably should just arrest him for terrorism stuff back then, is what it was, then a week before his death. Because had they done that, he wouldn't have probably died then, honestly, because he wouldn't have been out of prison at the time to be at that event itself, to then try to interfere with official business by ICE agents and end up getting fatally shot. Because my understanding, everything that happened there was the SIG that he was carrying was one of those P320s that, you know, has the itself issue basically. And from what it sounds like, at least from what I've heard from everybody talking about it, it sounds like it was probably when they took the SIG from him and like tried to move it wherever, then that it just fired off. And then all of a sudden, this idiot proceeds to then like flip his back and try to grab out his phone from his back, is what it is. And I think he knew what he was doing, honestly. I truly believe it might have been suicide by federal agents, what it was at that point, dude. Kind of like suicide by cop stuff. Because it would make a lot more sense then. Because what kind of dumbass gets disarmed and then tries to like pull a phone like it's a second gun, basically? Like, that's just stupid. Like, of course people are gonna split second react and be like, yeah, he's got a gun or whatever the case be, or he has a second gun or whatever the case be then. So, you know, it was basically like, anybody that tries to claim it was like, because I know there's that one dude, I forget what his name is, but he does all the Facebook reels where he's always pissed is what it is. And he was talking about like, oh, that shooting was like everybody's fault basically, because everybody's like basically trying to politically divide or whatever the case be. It's like, no, that shooting was 100% Alex Purdy's fault, dude, because only a fucking moron, number one, tries to obstruct official business like that. And then number two, when they are disarmed, tries to then go behind their back and pull out something else, like it's a second weapon or something. Had he not done that, he would still very much be alive, is what it is right now. At least I believe so, anyway. So, anyway, it's just a bunch of shit, honestly. So, but yeah. And then that being said, the reason we're talking about that, obviously, is because Trump has basically gone full retard with the whole thing in the last couple of days, now is what it is, and made some dumbass statements about like, oh, it's terrible that this man had a gun and 2 mags on him and stuff like that. It's like, what are you even talking about, dude? Like, that's a common practice. Like, okay, by your own logic there, Donald Trump, does that mean that every cop then in this country is a threat because they carry like 4 or 5 mags in their duty belt? Like, what the, like, it's fucking nonsensical is what it is, dude. It's complete irrational logic is what it is there. So, yeah, it's just dumb. I also want to point out the fact that I usually carry at least 3 mags with me, and that includes the one in the gun, obviously. So it'd be whatever's in the gun and then 2 extra mags of it, then 2 spares. That's on my person, by the way, when I go out, is what it is, just because you never know, man. We got so much Somali terrorism in this country. We got so much Islamic terrorism in this country. You have so many black gangs that are trying to just beat up white people, is what it is anymore, it seems like. Or like that one the other day where it was, let me see if I can find this story real quick. You had a woman named Dana, I believe is what it was, who was recently killed because she was going to meet people to buy a puppy, and then it turned out it was a fake sale. And of course, the mainstream media is not jumping on that story because it is a black on white hate crime, is what it was. Yeah, here it is. So you had, let's see here. Yeah, you had this white lady here, Dana Kenlaw, went to buy a puppy, but it was a fake sale meant to lure her out to an area where she was ambushed, killed, and set on fire by these 3 black people. So, yeah, just completely premeditated murder is what it was, dude. And my sister and I were talking about that last night, actually. It's craziness, dude. But yeah, it's definitely a situation where it's a good idea to carry multiple mags with you, just in case, because that's the thing. You never know if it's going to be you versus, like, a group of people or something like that when you're just trying to go out there and, do like a Facebook buy or something is what it is there, dude, which, and I've talked about this with people before, man. If you're going to, seriously, if you're going to go out there and buy something, like, be smart about it, man. If you're going to do, I don't care if it's a Facebook marketplace type of buying, I don't care if it is a eBay, Craigslist, whatever the case be. I guess technically be eBay, be like Craigslist or like Let Go or something like that's what it is there, or maybe like OfferUp or something. If you're going to go on one of these sites and like try to purchase something, be smart about it and tell them straight up, be like, hey, meet me at this police station or this fire station, whatever the case be, because I almost guarantee you, if it is some bullshit like that, they're not going to meet you at a police station or a fire station or something like that, dude, where they can be easily, confronted and stuff like that's what it is there. They're going to tell you, oh, no, we need to meet over at this place, then that'll be the case. And if that is the case, then be like, nope, no deal, bro. And just move on. Because it's obviously fake. It's obviously a setup. It's obviously somebody trying to, rob you, kill you, whatever the case be then. So, it sounds like my trash can, or my trash company is finally coming out again now. It's one thing I noticed last week is that they weren't really out here then. So, probably because of the extreme cold and the snow and everything like that. But it seems like they're finally able to get through now and pick up the garbage days what it was then. So that's good. But anyway. But yeah, it's craziness. That is what it is, dude. And it's sad. It's sad. So. Oh shit, Catherine O'Hara died this morning. That is too bad, man. That is really sad. Yep, Kevin McAllister's mom, Home Alone, Eugene Levy's wife from Schitt's Creek. I didn't even realize until like a couple of last year or so that she was actually Canadian originally, that had come here to America as it was, and it was because of that John Candy documentary that came out here like sometime last year. It was. So because I guess her and him, and it was her, him, Eugene Levy, and then like a bunch of other people in Canada that would do. I think it was called like Second City Stand Up or something. Or I forget. They talked about it in that documentary as it was. But yeah, it was basically like this whole group of people that was like, I don't know, like 20 or 30 different Canadian actors and actresses that have now become like known people, so it is now. That at the time were like basically nobodies, had come together and were doing like comedy stuff, and then they made like this little skit show is what it was. So it was actually pretty funny stuff, and yeah, it's too bad, man. Kind of makes you, well, I was gonna say at that age it might just be natural causes, but like it could also be, I can't remember if Catherine O'Hara was one of those people that was like pro COVID shots or not though, because it could be one of those situations where it was like she maybe took one of like the 5-year ones or something like that, and then they finally caught up with her now as it was. Because those don't know, there's like different variations of the COVID shot there, which is what it was, where like basically depending on the batch, it was like either immediate kill, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years on, or it was like lifetime health problems was the last one, And then there was like, I think the 7th batch, if I'm not mistaken, where it was basically kind of like a placebo, where it wasn't going to really do anything to anybody's what it was, and that's what a lot of the politicians took as it was then. So, but either way, sad situation, sad day. That is yeah, that is sad, man. She was a really good actress, I'll tell you that right now. So, but anyway, going back to what I was saying about Trump, though, like basically Trump's going full 90s Democrat, though, because he's basically trying to go anti-gun, is what it is, while claiming to be the most pro-gun administration in this country. Which, if that were the case, why in the last year have we not had constitutional carry and stand your ground become a nationwide thing? Is what it is then, as well as other pro-2A stuff, like I don't know, completely banning the NFA is what it is then. That has been unconstitutional for over 90 fucking years now, is what it is. So, but no, we're just gonna be stupid about that, right? Aren't we, Trump? So, but then again, makes sense. I mean, Donald Trump was one of the only people who was ever able to get a concealed carry license in New York City because of being a billionaire and famous and rich and everything else like that. That's what it was. So, but anyway, moving on from there, I want to talk about Vivek going full India for a minute. So basically, there was a speech that he did the other day. I think it was the other day. It might have been maybe a few months ago, but it's finally come out the other day is what it was. But he was basically saying, oh, we got to combat China by having America basically be in league with India. It's like, the fuck we do, motherfucker. Get the fuck out of here. And that alone should be a disqualification for his bitch ass to be thrown out of the entire political race right now is what it is then. Of course, they won't do it because GOP is a bunch of fucking corrupt pieces of shit that are bought and paid for by India and foreign nationals, what it is right now. So, yeah, it's basically becoming a point right now where I think the only way to fix Ohio politics is just abolish state government is what it is and then restart fresh through Article 1, Section 2 of the state constitution. And of course, you got this stupid shit by Vivek here. Justin Guy brought up the fact that said, once a day, Ohio GOP chair, which would be that Alex guy, defends his decisions to endorse Ramaswamy. Never seen anything like it. Is it because Vivek said Medicaid and Medicare were mistakes, or because he's had a rising cost for something we were imagining, which is the second clip here is what it is. I'm going to go ahead and share this right now for those interested. Speaking of other Democrats, too, by the way, this is why you don't let Democrats steal power through voter fraud, specifically Abigail Spreadbringer and stuff like that. You got Virginia Democrats greenlit 200% energy price spikes, now illegal. Governor Spreadbringer plans an $1,100 a year carbon tax. With Democrats in control, Virginia approved massive electricity rate hikes through Dominion Energy with increases up to 200%. Abigail Spreadbringer plans to re-enter the National Greenhouse Gas Initiative, taking on roughly $1,100 annually, or tacking on $1,100 annually to the average bill. Opponents warn the combined impact turns affordability promises into permanent energy inflation. And yeah, this girl that was with the big ass glasses here, she was talking about how since these retarded Democrats took power through voter fraud less than a month ago, she is now paying triple what she used to pay in energy for her electric bill, which is now up to over $600 a month, and it's more than her car payment. Like, it's just completely psychotic is what it is. Speaking of completely psychotic and fucking out of their goddamn minds, you got this piece of shit bitch cunt who was one of the fucking rioters there in the Minnesota church the other day, falsely claiming that, quote, we had handcuffs on as an African-American studies expert. This was the closest I was to slavery. These are the people that just need to be deported out of our fucking country, dude, for real. Like, just throw these dipshits out of fucking America for good. That's where they belong. They belong back to fucking Africa, dude. End of story. They're a bunch of fucking clowns. They got no business being in this country is what it is. So speaking of the insane left for a second as well, we're going to just go down the timeline here. So you got this crazy bitch. Liberal woman with huge glasses and a septum piercing says, quote, I am willing to burn my life to the ground. I have nothing and don't believe in heaven. Of course they don't, because they're demonically evil, dude, is what it is. These people are either atheists or they're just straight up demon possessed is what it is in many cases. So, That's why they're going to go straight to hell. But so speaking of criminal Democrats, you got another one that stole office there. This time in New Jersey, this fucking piece of shit cunt right here, Miki Sherrill, who, by the way, should have been in prison already for insider trading, while she was literally I believe she was a congresswoman a few years back now, and it was proven during the actual election cycle there last year that she had committed insider trading using her position in a military committee to know exactly what we were going to do, and then went and did a bunch of stock investments into places like Halliburton and stuff like that. What it was. So, but yeah, this piece of shit, Cider, who is now the criminal, illegal governor of New Jersey, announces Democrats will work with ICE protesters to track federal agents. So you basically submitted this not only sophisticated terrorism, you're submitting straight terrorism at that point, bitch. So, yeah, this piece of shit was quoted as, "I've already met with the AG. We are also going to be starting up a portal so people can upload all their cell phone footage and alert people. If you see an ICE agent on the street, get out your phone. We want to know. They will not tell us who they are." Yeah, that's some Nazi shit that she's talking about there, dude, honestly. Like, and again, this is exactly why people wonder, like, why we don't want a surveillance nanny state is what it is, dude, because of shit like that right there is what it is. So, it's just completely fucking insane is what it is, bro. So, speaking of insane Democrat, Nazi, Stalin, Maoist, etc. there. Yeah, Democrats are calling federal law enforcement agents Nazis who need to be hunted. Will the media ask Dems to condemn this? Of course they won't, because they're fucking idiots. That's what it is, dude. If the media itself condemned the shit, they would just cut off the fucking broadcast entirely, is what it is then. And then this is the head of the Ohio GOP chair right now, is what it is. Alex I don't even know if that's fucking guy's last name, honestly. It's something Greek. But he was saying yesterday, so this is what Chair Brian Acton want to have in Ohio. This is their associate in Pennsylvania, who they both work with in the Democrat Party, extremist, all of them. But yet you're letting them continue on in the race, dude, is what it is. So instead of banning them for life of one office from that shit, because they're all terrorists, is what it is, bro. So let's see what this one is. Independent journalist just caught an associate dean and professor at, what university is this one? Arizona State University, admitting they still push DEI. Of course they fucking do, dude. They always do. They always do. They always have, is what it is. So none of it stopped. It's even here in Ohio, bro, like, you got all kinds of crazy shit going on where they're just and mind you, we put laws into place to stop the DEI crap, but yet it's still going on. And they're just not doing anything about it. Like, even, where is it, right here? That Mihai Cook woman, she's an Indian, by the way. So this is not normal. Columbus Education Association Teachers Union wants classrooms turned into political training grounds, feeding kids information or immigration propaganda, protest narratives in a worldwide worldview where law enforcement is the enemy, sick indoctrination, talk to your kids. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've been saying for years now, dude. Like, the best thing that happened in America right now is we just ban teachers unions nationwide, what it is then, and be done with it. Because they're all run by a bunch of communist pieces of shit, what it is right now, dude. So, and then speaking of communists that are quote unquote business owners right now, we got a coffee shop in Mentor, Ohio is offering free coffee to anti-ICE rioters and demands ICE stop arresting illegals. Trump won the county by 15 points. Would love to see how this turns out. Yeah, exactly. They're a bunch of jackasses, what it is, dude. So, I really hope this fucking place goes out of business, honestly, dude. Like, these are the kind of places that need to be bankrupted out of business with just people not visiting them anymore is what it is there. So, I just want to point out that Marcel here is who we are actually backing for Secretary of State when it comes to the May 5th elections. So, this dude's got to win, dude. Like, it's all just said about it. Because I know that crazy cunt Allison Russo is running for the Democrat primary. Marcel has to win the Republican primary and then win the general election. Because this is the kind of guy we want in power right now. From my understanding, he is not politically bought by anybody. He is very much a Casey Putsch type. Except in that case, Casey's always running for governor. Marcel's running for Secretary of State. And I guarantee if Marcel was actually in office, he would be the one that would actually do the job that Frank LaRoche should have been doing for like the last decade now, which is actually investigating voter fraud in this state, in this country. So, and then of course we got, I do want to talk about this one as well. We got scumbag, cunt, cheater, piece of shit, anti-gunner who should never been allowed to even run for office in this country. Mark Kelly comes out against the SAVE Act, a bill that would require proof of citizenship to vote in the election. Yeah. And why is that? Oh, yeah, it's because Mark Kelly literally stole the U.S. Senate seat in Arizona through voter fraud by illegals and specifically by a bunch of cartel gangbangers who have funded his campaign, who have helped fund he and his wife's bullshit anti-gun group, Giffords, since forever. So, yeah, it's just a bunch of disgusting bullshit is what it is, dude. Like, and this is what I'm saying. This is why I'm out to keep from office right now, dude. Like, shit like this right here. Mark Kelly should be booted on his fucking ass for that alone is what it is, man. Like, enough is enough of this crap. So, anyway. Let's see what else we got here. Got a bunch of leftists broke into a Minnesota church service again, demanding for liberation, turning the gospel service into political stunt, attacking the GOP. The group was mostly comprised of white liberal women. Of course it was. Of course it was. See, the problem with this kind of stuff is, though, is that people aren't turning the other cheek and punching with the other fist, because I'm just going to say it like it is, dude. You break into my church service and try to fuck with me and my people, I'm knocking your fucking ass to the ground and I'm throwing you out the fucking door on your fucking ass. Like you're going down a goddamn staircase at that point, bitch. I don't give a fuck. And that's what most people need to have as the mindset right now is what it is, dude. Just throw these motherfuckers out of the goddamn church entirely is what it is then. One after fucking another. Like a bunch of bowling pins. So... And then going full circle back around to terrorist Omar, proving once again that Omar is a piece of shit. He's kicked out of this fucking country. Has joined a rapid response team in Minneapolis that delivers goods to illegal aliens. They don't have to leave their homes. Actually treasonous. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's actually more than high treason, dude. All right, actually, I guess it's traitorous, but yeah, it's actually treasonous. It's high treasonous. Is what it is, because she's trying to destroy the sovereignty of this country is what it is there, man. So, anyway. Speaking of the psychotic nut leftists that are in power currently, we got this stupid bitch, Robin Kelly, calls to completely dismantle the Department of Homeland Security. Or we could just dismantle your entire congressional district, bitch. And literally throw you out of office for life is what it is then. So that seems like a lot more feasible and a lot smarter thing to do, honestly. So anyway. Jesus Christ. Then, of course, we got a total pile of shit. Amy Klobuchar shares that her most cherished picture of her daughter is one where she is surrounded by dozens of Somalis. Fucking hell. Never forget that this crazy cunt literally started her political career in Minnesota as a county prosecutor / DA, where she railroaded an 8-year-old black kid into a false confession. The kid had no lawyer. He had no parent present. She lied straight to his face and was like, oh, yeah, if you just admit to this, we're just going to let you go home, buddy. And so he did. He basically lied that he was there or whatever, and he committed this crime, which he didn't. And then this sick cunt used that kid, railroaded him into the prison system, and then proceeded to make her political career off that one because she used that prosecution to then run for a higher office there in Minnesota, and then eventually run for the U.S. Senate, and has since basically stolen a U.S. Senate seat several times as what it is now. So, yeah, just sick-ass people, dude. Just demonically evil motherfuckers is what it is there. So... So there's a new one that just popped in my feed of a guy named John who is trying to run for Ohio AG. I'm going to go look this dude up real quick, actually. Seems like the type that would be kind of a Democrat would be my guess, but who knows? So I just want to see exactly where he is. Running here is what it is then. For political side is what it is there. Because he made a whole X post here about it. Where he said, to run for Ohio AG, you have to be a resident of Ohio, qualified elector, and be at least 18 years old. If you fit that bill, you have to submit at least 1,000 signatures from people saying you're worthy to make the ballot. And then this is what he said 18 hours ago. He said, tomorrow morning I'm filing the signatures. So that would have been sometime today. He did that then, if that was the case. So, it's good for him. But let's go ahead and see where this man stands is what it is then. Let's see. Graduated from OSU and law, or Yale Law School. Has practiced law and served public for over 40 years. Grew up in a post-war suburb of Columbus. It's like he's never held office before, but he's running as a Democrat. So that's exactly what we don't need in power then, dude. So. Oh, yeah. Of course, he lives in the upper Arlington area, which is like the richest, whitest fucking Democrat hellhole ever. A bunch of white liberals, what it is there, dude. So I'm not surprised in the least by that one. Yeah, I'm not in the least surprised on that one at all. Even just looking at this man, like the guy just looks like kind of a scumbag. Let me go ahead and pull up his website. Here's what it is. Like he just looks like he's gonna fuck you over, honestly, with that little smirk on his face there. So I love how these people are like, I visited all 88 counties. Did you, or did you just lie your ass off and claim like you did? Because that's what Vivek's ass did, dude. He just lie his fucking ass off. Highlands are working hard to do their best for themselves. Listen anymore. Heard loud and clear. Policies that ignore needs of working classrooms in Ohio. Risking their pay, safety, and livelihoods. No. The only thing risking this thing is are piece of shit Democrats like you, buddy, who are helping. It looks like this guy's probably, given that he's from the, like I said, the city of Arlington, Upper Arlington there. Looks like he's maybe a city councilman right now, if that'd be the case. Perhaps. So, not surprising with Melissa if that'd be the case then. So the problem here is like, yeah, when you have, and that's the thing, right? Like, if people want to talk about rising costs, dude, in this state or in this country, it's because you have a bunch of Democrats importing an entire voter base into this nation. And then that voter base of illegal aliens and Somali terrorists, Islamic terrorists, etc., are then put into places where they are given housing, and ergo, they're making housing costs, they're making renting costs, etc., way more expensive for the rest of us than it is then. And that's why you got people all over Columbus now literally living inside of heat-controlled storage units. They're like the indoor places and stuff like that. When I was living down with my sister last year for a few months before I got to this place, obviously, you actually had people. There was a whole news report down there. That was like, I believe it was a 2-day news report back. It was like the same news report, but they added more to it the second day, I believe it was, or something. And it was basically like this whole like segment on the news, on local news stations all throughout Columbus there, where they were discussing how there was like hundreds of people living in these storage units because they could not afford rent down there. And it makes sense because rent is astronomical in Columbus, dude. It's like anything, like I think the baseline almost is like $1,000 or more for a single 1-bedroom is what it is there. And even then, that's not even in the greatest area. Like if you're going less than that, if you're going like $650, $700 a month, dude, you're going to be in the fucking ghetto slums risking getting shot in your sleep by some gangbanger doing a fucking drive-by in your building or something like that because you're trying to kill some other idiot is what it is then. So, yeah, it's just completely insane. Like, that's where the safety problem comes in, dude, is fucking pieces of shit like Andrew Ginther being mayor of Columbus for the last, like, you know, what is it, like almost 20 years now or something crazy shit like that. And this dude is actively trying to fuck over Ohioans by literally creating a sanctuary city there in Columbus, which is completely unconstitutional and illegal to have here. And he's literally protecting illegal aliens in this state is what it is. And that's exactly why ICE needs to come in here and start kicking fucking skulls in is what it is, dude, for real. Like, he needs to start kicking doors in, he needs to start kicking fucking heads in is what it is there. And start arresting these fucking politicians out of office, what it is then, too, on top of everything else. So... yeah, interestingly, looking at this guy's website, just talks about why he was running or whatever, which is just some bullshit statement, and has literally nothing else about any political platform he's actually running on. So, like, if anything, that just tells you exactly what kind of a fucking joke this man is. So, anyway. Yeah. Yeah, just put a 3-word answer back to this dude. I said, no dice, dem. So, anyway. Oh, good God. That idiot that played Gus Fring in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul is now trying to call for a revolution while wearing a gay-ass looking designer scarf and even weirder glasses than the ones he wore in Breaking Bad. These people are a complete fucking joke. I mean, they really are, honestly. Like, they're like, and this is the problem with Hollywood again. They're all like, all these people in Hollywood, they're committing the version of terrorism there. I forget how you pronounce the word. It's like scatophic or something like that. But they're all committing it, dude. They've all committed it. They are all in violation of the stuff, especially Kathy Griffin. She did a post, like, I think it was last night or like 2 days ago maybe or something, that then started going viral last night is what it was, where she was openly calling for a bunch of leftists to create like right-wing list of people and stuff like that, and then form a plan. And I'm like, so you're admitting to terrorism then? Which, mind you, she should have already been in federal prison like, what was it, like a decade or more ago, when she openly did the whole head thing of Trump is what it was there, dude. Like, that alone should have seen her in prison for terrorism, what it was back then. So... So everybody's trying to figure out who this woman is. Okay, I'm gonna go look up this lady right now real quick. Let's see, Sarah Marie Brenner. Oh, okay. Yeah, this would be the wife of one of the state reps, and that's what it is. So, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull up a picture right now. So for those who don't know who Andrew Brenner is, Andrew Brenner has been in the General Assembly here for like, I don't know, probably like a decade. I think he's one of the chamber jumpers of this happened like last decade or so is what it is. This is a younger picture of him right here. This is his wife, Sarah. And basically, Sarah went on a whole tirade the other day about the Alex Purdy shooting with this Jack Windsor guy. Jack Windsor is basically an independent journalist here in Ohio. He's actually pretty good. He's exposed a lot of stuff that it is there. I believe he was one of the ones that originally exposed the Somali fraud going on here back in like 2016 or 2015, somewhere in there. Of course, nothing was ever done about it because the wine and all these people are all in cahoots and they're fucking involved in is what it is there. But yeah, this is basically put out here a little last night. He said, violating letter of the law doesn't mean someone deserves to be fatally shot. Line matters in a debate over Alex Purdy's fatal shooting, and so do the responsibilities tied to a permit to carry in Minnesota. Minnesota's permit to carry process is supposed to include gun safety courses, basics taught there. Don't take a firearm into an active investigation / operation, and if apprehended, put hands up and declare the gun. Reason is simple. In volatile situations, ignoring these rules can result in a fatality. First Amendment right to protest exists even with a gun, but once conduct becomes volatile. I'm not sure what that word even is. Yeah, volative. No, it should have been volatile, actually. In those protests, the warning was clear. That right is lost, and felony territory. Felony terrorism, maybe? Begins described as a textbook example of why carry course instructions exists. Where should the line be drawn between lawful protest and obstruction when firearms are involved? Well, and that's the problem, right? Like, and this is the thing that I've seen a lot of people get into for the last like week or two now is what it is, where like since this guy was basically shot, there's what it is. And the thing is, you have the right to peacefully protest. You also have the right to carry while protesting. What you don't have the right to do is commit terrorist acts. What you don't have the right to do is commit terrorism or obstruct justice or impede official business and stuff like that's what it is, especially not while you're carrying. Because again, unless you want to end up like Alex Purdy and get killed, like that's pretty much what it is, man. And that's the thing. Like, and the thing is, the biggest issue I have right now is the fact of what people are even calling protesting these days. Because what these leftists are doing is not protesting. It is terrorist rioting. I'm just going to call it what it is, dude. It is them openly rioting against the federal government. It is them in an open rebellion against the federal government, which, by the way, is an insurrection. And it is them openly committing all kinds of seditious conspiracy. When you have the leadership of these people and you have these motherfucking assholes who are openly meeting with Democrat leadership, when you got people like Ro Khanna going to Minnesota and meeting with these fucking terrorist leaders, this shit is a conspiracy, dude. It is the Democrat Party, is Democrat politicians in power right now, most of which are in power through voter fraud, openly siding with the terrorist left. And it's because they're trying to create their foot soldiers. Can't tell if there's a bird outside. What the fuck, that chirping noise I'm hearing? Weird. So, anyway. But yeah, it's a bunch of shit all the way around, dude. And I'm fucking sick and tired of it. Because if Trump truly did give a shit about America right now, you would have already seen a bunch of these people get arrested for terrorism. You would have seen a better AG pick to begin with, that fucking idiot Pam Bondi, who, by the way, needs to be removed and replaced at this point, honestly, well over. And the issue is that we've seen throughout American history now, especially when it comes to 2A rights in this country, is there are so many oath-breaking states right now that do not respect your right to carry at all. It's a bunch of shit, honestly. And this is exactly what I said. Like, this is exactly why we've had Trump in office for over a year now. And this dude has not done the first fucking thing he possibly could to protect 2A rights. He has not passed constitutional carry. He's not passed stand your ground. He's not passed any of the stuff, dude. Which, by the way, when you have, I believe it is almost 30 states now, if not 30 states now, that have constitutional carry at a state level, at what point is enough enough? And we just say, no, the entire country needs to be constitutional carry. Because that's the thing. Even look at the Minnesota law there that Jack Windsor guy brought up. It's completely unconstitutional, dude. You shouldn't have to have a carry permit just to open carry in a state, let alone conceal carry in a state. It's ridiculousness. And that's another thing, too. Like, I know people have brought it up, too, as well. They're like, oh, well, you know, if the police see your stuff, whatever the case be, it's like, well, that's the entire point, dude. If you're out there protesting, whatever the case be, and you're carrying, like, most people are going to be concealed carrying anyway, especially in a constitutional carry state. So it's like, unless you literally have the shit, like, strapped to you in a way where you're, like, holding up a sign that's, like, in your waistband, and they can see, like your shirt, like, pulls up and they can see it. Like, pretty sure they're not going to know you're carrying, bro. So, until it would be, you know, like something goes down and then you're, you know, pulling in self-defense is what it is, then that'd be the case. So anyway, yeah, it's just kind of nonsensical is what it is, and it really just shows, like, the fuckery. So, yeah, like that. Maryland and D.C. prohibit legally carrying without 1,000 feet, or within 1,000 feet of demonstration. Let's see. Got other places like DC, you can't carry legally. That's another thing too, by the way. Like, and that's the problem with Washington D.C., District of Columbia, being this weird territory where it is probably one of the most violent places in America. It's exactly why Trump deployed the National Guard there is what it was, because you had Muriel Bowser as the stupid ass mayor of the little city state. Might as well call it that. Is what it is. Which it basically is just a federal territory is what it is, because it doesn't actually exist in any state. It's just like its own little, I want to say it's like a 16-mile like square basically is what it is. And for those who don't know, actually, when you look into it, there's only technically that 2 places in America that the U.S. government can actually control over. One of them is like that 16-mile square or whatever it is that makes up Washington, D.C. The other is, it's like some swamp, and I think it is like Colorado or something. Like it's like a little like mud hole basically. That's only like maybe like 5 miles or something like that. And that's only the two places they're supposed to be able to legally, own / control is what it is. But the reality of the fact is that they are illegally controlling all these national parks around America. And when you start looking into the cryptid activity that we're seeing recently, especially in the last like month or 2 years, what it is, I think that's exactly why you have the federal government control of these national parks and all these various places, and are basically, trying to board them off to civilian populations. What it is there, and it's because all these campgrounds are becoming like cryptid hot zones. Is what it is. Like I know there was one here in Ohio. It was about maybe 8 weeks ago now, give or take, because it happened on I believe it was the first week of December. So it would have been. Let's see if I can figure this out now. I want to say it was the 5th of December when this happened. So it would have been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's exactly 8 weeks to the day now is what it is. It was down in Cincinnati. There was a cop down there who was driving home from, it was actually a sheriff's deputy, if I'm not mistaken. So it became a county sheriff's deputy is my guess. He was driving home from his shift at like 2-ish, 2:30 in the morning, somewhere in there. There's a, if I can find it, I'll actually post the link on our X page of it is there, because he did a whole telling of the story to, I believe it was the From the Shadows podcast, I want to say, but I could be wrong with that one, because I actually listened to it the other day. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, he was basically saying how he was going home from his shift, and it was in, I want to say, Avondale, which is one of the like suburbs of Cincinnati. There's what it is. And he was driving down this back road, and all of a sudden he saw this creature come out of nowhere, and it was definitely a dog-man creature, dog-man cryptid, if you will. And it freaked him the fuck out. And when he was telling the story, he was actually talking about how apparently, I guess, that area, because it's like a back road area where it's kind of like, kind of like where I used to live, basically, with my mom's old place. And there's a bunch of people that obviously jog down that road is what it is there. And so he was basically like worried, because he's like, yeah, who's to say these creatures aren't going to come out in the middle of the day or whatever and just snatch up some kid or some woman or whatever the case be, like out there just jogging or doing like some cross country stuff or whatever then. So, and my understanding is since then there's also been another sighting of some like winged creature here is what it is in that same area then. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of cryptid shit going on in Ohio in the last month or two is what it is now. So just crazy stuff, man. And that's just Ohio, by the way. I mean, there's also stuff going on like crazy in Missouri. There's stuff going on like crazy in other parts of the Ozarks and stuff like that. So if you go down a lane between the lakes area there with Kentucky and Tennessee, it's basically one side's dogman territory, the other side's Bigfoot territory. So, and of course, you got like these crazy Yetis and Alaska and stuff like that that are like basically man eaters is what it is there, that are some kind of Bigfoot hybrid or like a different Bigfoot tribe, whatever you want to call it there. So, and then in my understanding is there's also some kind of like cat creature that exists in, it exists in North Carolina, because there was, I believe it was November or October of last year, there was some people that were out there that were trying to grow a weed field and ended up getting caught. And then when the park ranger found them, he basically encountered one of these these humanoid cat people that came out of nowhere. He put like 3 or 4 rounds in it from an AR-15, and it did not go down. And then they all got, like, everybody basically got the fuck out as fast as possible. Then on that one, he ended up going back in there. Or no, sorry, I'm sorry. He shot with his not revolver, with a semi-auto is what he had at the time. So it would have been like a 9mm. He shot with 9mm, it didn't go down. And then he and like 5 or 6 other park rangers went out there like a couple weeks later is what it was then, to check on stuff. And they ended up encountering like 4 or 5 of these things like flying out of the trees, shot at them with ARs, and 5.56 did not take them down. So they basically bugged the fuck out before they died. So, yeah, needless to say, if these creatures can sit there and take, like, you know, a high pressure 22 and not go down from multiple shots from it, dude, like, I don't know. We have to go up to 308, 450 Bushmaster or something like that's what it is then or something. So, but yeah, it's a scary situation. I think that's exactly why we're seeing, and I believe my understanding is since then, the area that happened in North Carolina, they've shut down some various campgrounds in that area then too. And they've done the same thing in Missouri since there's been a bunch of like sightings of various cryptids there is what it is. So, but yeah, our government's definitely protecting some kind of creatures is what it is. I have no idea what they are, man. And I assume that they were here before us, but who the hell knows? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it was something like that show Sanctuary, where there was some kind of a hollow earth going on here. And these creatures just kind of live down there is what it is. And then they just come up from time to time to just like, check things out and see what's going on basically. And grab something to eat is what it is then. Because obviously when you have various government organizations now in various states reintroducing elk populations, reintroducing like caribou and stuff like that, etc., and like various different deer and stuff like that, and then telling people, oh, you can't hunt these like big game. Like, what are they trying to feed out there is what it is, Like, what do they know that we don't know? Kind of a situation there. So, very scary situation all the way around is what it is there, dude. But, anyway. But yeah, Virginia's going nuts, man. For those that haven't seen what's going on in Virginia recently, since the Democrats stole that election cycle last year there's a dude who's a Bangladeshi foreign national who's going to be holding office in this country, by the way. He is the one that filed the bill that is basically one of the biggest anti-gun bills ever in Virginia that would basically strip everybody's rights away. It would essentially ban pretty much every semi-auto in the state. You would have a 10-round capacity magazine limitation, and then it would essentially just be like a hellhole at that point. I believe, honestly, like, this is the kind of shit that's going to kick off a revolution in this country. Like, if that does not kick off a revolution or civil war in this country, dude, like, I don't know what will at this point, honestly. So I would not be surprised in the least if there was like a bunch of gunners in Virginia that basically has had enough of the fucking Democrat cheaters and just like started smoking people pretty soon is what it is there, dude. And they would be 100% justified in doing so, because when you have these people steal office and then we don't have election integrity where we can actually have, elections be audited and stuff like that and prove voter fraud and arrest these people for voter fraud, like, what's the solution? It's a cartridge box at that point, honestly, dude. When you have no true justice system left anymore, like, that's your last option, basically, what it is there. Now, I'm not saying that 100% should be done. I think, honestly, if Trump and them were smart is what it is, then they just go to Virginia and be like, no, we're out of this election cycle. Fuck you guys, you're all going to prison now is what it is. But, we already seen the feckless bitch that is Pam Bondi not doing a damn thing, and she's all red flag 11 is what it is there, too, for that matter. So, of course, she's not going to do anything when it comes to gun rights in this country at a state or a federal level. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I think we're getting to a point right now where it's going to be, I think you're going to see a spark off happen. I believe Tim Pool, what he said in the last week or so, is correct when he talked about civil strife is what it is that we're in right now. And I believe we're definitely in a civil unrest, civil strife time period right now. That's basically going to lead to a civil war. Probably sometime this summer would be my guess. So about maybe 3.5, 4 months from now, give or take. So it'd be like spring, summertime. So like May, June, July, someplace in there this summer. And I believe from there, it's going to be a quick situation where it's basically going to shift from civil war into a revolution. Because the thing, not all revolutions start as revolutions. Some of them start as civil wars and eventually morph into a revolution. Where if something does start as a revolution, though, it starts and ends the revolution. It can never become a civil war. It can never become a civil conflict, whatever the case be. So, in one aspect, one can become the other thing, but the other thing cannot become the first is what it is there. So, and yeah, I could definitely see something happening where people have finally just had enough of what it is there. And it's just, they just start taking back states by force is what it is then. So, I don't know, man. Like, I think we're getting to a point right now where it's going to be, I think you're going to see a spark off happen. I believe Tim Pool, what he said in the last week or so, is correct when he talked about civil strife is what it is that we're in right now. And I believe Virginia, definitely going to be in a civil unrest, civil strife time period right now. That's basically going to lead to a civil war. Probably sometime this summer would be my guess. So about maybe 3.5, 4 months from now, give or take. So it'd be like spring, summertime. So it'd be like 3.5, 4 months from now, give or take. So about maybe 3.5, 4 months from now, give or take. So Now, granted, would that potentially lead to an invocation of insurrection or martial law? Perhaps. Depends. Who knows? So it just all depends right now is what it is. But I don't know. It's kind of irritating when you think about it because we definitely have a situation right now that needs to be resolved as peacefully as possible. And the way to peacefully do it, honestly, is you ban foreign nationals and agreeers from holding office in this country. You arrest people who are obviously committing voter fraud. You do the investigation into the voter fraud. You have election audits is what it is there to prove the voter fraud. Then you arrest people for voter fraud. They are arrested out of office. They are put in prison. They are banned for life from ever holding office again in this country is what it is. If they ever get out of prison, for that matter, is what it is, because it really should be at least life. It really minimum should be life imprisonment, not death penalty charges for that point, because you're stealing election cycles through using illegals to then get the most power possible to fuck over everybody is what it is, and enrich yourself is what it is there. Because another thing that Virginia's doing right now with these Democrats that are stealing office there is they are fucking over everybody else, and they are now trying to double their own salaries and power. So it's just absolutely insane is what it is, dude. So basically it's just, it's just this people that think they're untouchable basically is what it is there, dude. And I think that was the thing with January 6th. Like, even if it was like mostly a Fed created situation, there's what it was. Like, there were some people who weren't. And you can tell that these people were scared in the chambers there, man. Like, they realized, like, oh shit, we are not in control here. It's like there are people that can take us out, is what it is then. It's like they need to fear that, man, is what it is for real. So, like, that's the thing. That's what makes a true constitutional republic is a government that fears its citizenry, not a government that has gone full tyrant and has no fear of the people. So, now granted, that being said, the problem with a civil war kicking off right now, obviously, is what it is you have so many foreign nationals, so many Islamic and Chinese sleeper cells on this country soil right now. I believe if something did kick off, it would end up turning into like this crazy conflict where it would be Americans versus everybody else at that point that's here. Because there's a video that came out a couple of days ago, and I can't remember exactly which social media site it was posted. I think it was X there somewhere. I think I actually did reshare it if that be the case, where it was some Chinese dude who I guarantee is either here on a student visa or is one of these birth tourism kids or whatever, who was openly calling for people to basically do a revolt against the government right now is what it is. And he was essentially pushing Chinese communism at the same time as what it was for the left. So, yeah, that's exactly what we don't need. We don't need these kind of people ever is what it is in this country. And I think that's exactly why you're going to see, unfortunately, and I've said this before, I think when things do finally go hot, there is like, rounds flying basically, you're going to see a lot of people that would be essentially on the same side end up shooting and killing each other is what it is. And it's because nobody's going to have any know-how or knowledge for that matter of like who is on their side and who's not on their side. And then not only that, but like the infiltration of stuff where you could easily have, 2 or 3 or 4 groups even carrying the same American flag, but there could be like, a bunch of Antifa infiltrators in one of the groups or whatever the case be. And all of a sudden it's, American flag comes down, Antifa flag goes up, whatever the case be. By then, like people have already started, firing off as what it is then. And so you're going to have a lot of dead individuals all the way around is what it is there. So, I don't know. It's just a scary situation to think about right now. And it would be so much easier if we just dealt with the problems at hand right now, which is basically if Trump and company want to do their job, you would have prosecutions of people like Don Lemon for terrorism, and then just go down the line of all these other Hollywood assholes like that. And prove once and for all that nobody actually is above the laws what it is there. That'd be number one. Number two would be release every single page of the Epstein files unredacted so people can tell who the fucking pedophiles are. I don't care who the fuck they are at this point. I assume they're on both sides of the aisle. Kick them all out of fucking office at that point and arrest them all and be done with it there. And then basically just start going down the lines what it is there. And that's one thing I did. I saw a Facebook reel in the last day or two. Here's what it was that same guy I was talking about. I can't remember the guy's name was. Obviously, I think it might be Andy something, but I could be wrong. But he was basically, one of the things he was talking about was the fraud and the corruption and stuff going on here, not only in Minnesota, but like nationwide, basically. And his take on it was the fact that the reason that nobody's really been, prosecuted for that stuff is because everybody's involved at every single level. And I think he's right about that one, because especially here in Ohio, man, it was the FBI like 20-something years ago now, talking about Ohio being one of the most corrupt states politically is what it was. And I can tell you right now, just looking into Ohio politics since about 2015 or so, give or take, so it's been about 11 years, give or take now, there is so much corruption here when it comes to pay-to-play scandals, when it comes to the household of bribery scandal stuff that should have also taken down to one and pretty much half the General Assembly at that point, because it wasn't just household involved in that $60 million. It was, by the way, more than $60 million bucks. Like, that was the tip of the iceberg. It would have been about probably $600 million or so, if not more than that, probably a couple billion actually. And then the fact he got Mike DeWine's piece of shit ass recently, when there was the Somali fraud being added here, and him being like, "Oh, it's just the cost of doing business in Ohio." It's like, no, it's not, dude. But the cost of doing business in Ohio is arrest the fucking criminals. But you're not going to do that because you are one of the fucking criminals, is what it is there. So this is why I've said many times during this cast, and I think it's going to have to become reality, is what it is there's going to be a petition put on the ballot here in Ohio to just abolish state government, is what it is. And people are just going to have to get on board, and we just abolish the state government as it is right now, and then completely start fresh with everybody brand new. Nobody that's in power right now needs to be put back into power ever again, is what it is there. And it would be that simple. So, unfortunately, will it ever come to that? I doubt it, because I think there's so much division between everybody right now, it is, that it would be impossible to get like a true constitutional republic again, even at state levels, what it is, until there would be a legitimate nationwide resolution of some stuff. So, and who's to say who's going to survive that? That'd be the case then. But I know one thing. I know Islam is literally trying to take over this country and enact Sharia law, and I'll be damned if I let that fucking happen, is what it is, man. So, and that also is a big thing too. And that would be the way to do that, honestly. You would almost have to go back and alter the First Amendment of the Constitution when it comes to freedom of the press, where it would be something like freedom of the press, unless it can be proven that you're obviously committing violations of federal laws, at which point you can then be arrested, is what it is then. Because truth of the matter is, like, there is no real, true mainstream media press anymore, is what it is. They're all corrupt as fuck. They're all in cahoots with the Democrat Party and the rhinos and stuff like that, is what it is. And are open, like I said, what was it, like a few months ago now? You literally had Jasmine Crockett on MSNBC, and it was, I forget what the woman's name was. She was some black talking head, there's what it was. I want to say Tiffany something, but I could be wrong about that one. Like Tiffany Cross or something, maybe. And she was basically openly calling for Democrats to arm up at the time, and you just see Crockett like nodding along, like, And mind you, this was like a week after Charlie Kirk's assassination. They were talking about that shit, dude. So they were basically telling Democrats to basically commit revolution at that point and revolt against an actual government that is legitimate. So, yeah, it's just pretty disgusting in general. But this is the problem with mainstream media in a nutshell right now, is what it is. You got these people that are like, should never be in power ever, that are openly in power doing crazy shit, or are being listened to by the masses, what it is there. And that's what's so scary about the schizotic terrorism, is what it is that you have these celebrities going out there and calling for this stuff and not being arrested for it, and then it's going to be some rando person doing this stuff. Like, that's why I believe, truthfully, that's exactly what Jane Fonda is guilty of, because she was on The View a few years back now and was basically calling for, the left to go attack Christians, what it was then. And it was within like a day or two of that is when you had that piece of shit female tranny there who was claiming to be a dude go and shoot up that fucking school. It was a Christian school, there's what it was. And the fact that Jane Fonda was never arrested for that is absolute bullshit. The fact that Jane Fonda was never arrested for helping kill POWs during Vietnam is even more ridiculous, honestly. Because for those who don't know that story, I'm going to talk about that real quick before we go today, which is basically during the Vietnam War, you had a bunch of POWs, and I believe it was the Hanoi Hilton is what they called the prisoner of war camp there is what it was. You had Jane Fonda, who was then she was obviously a like Hollywood celeb type as what it was, but she was also trying to be like a correspondent for the news or whatever then. And she was allowed to basically go into that prisoner of war camp there is what it was. You had a bunch of these POWs. They had little pieces of paper that they wrote like messages onto their families, letting them know that they were alive and stuff like that. You literally had them hand them to Jane Fonda. And then as she was leaving, she turned around, looked at the Viet Cong captain guy there, and was like, hey, all these POWs gave me these things, and then handed them to that guy. And of course, they were all killed after that, is what it was. So the fact that she was never, ever charged with that stuff is absolutely ridiculous, dude, because she definitely led those guys' murders as it was then. So, not to mention you got scumbag piece of shit John McCain, or as they called Songbird McCain back then. He did the same stuff back then, where he was basically snitching on his own people to get better treatment and stuff like that as a prisoner of war. So, yeah, it's the most demonically evil people that are being allowed to walk free in this world, and it's just absolutely disgusting is what it is. And that's why I truly do believe that we are in a battle of good versus evil right now, where it's literally the righteousness in heaven, righteousness, the heavenly good, versus the legitimate demonic evil, where there is legitimate demons possessing some of these people. So it is like, specifically when you look at people like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, those guys are definitely possessed by demons. And then of course you got these rhinos and stuff like that want to cut deals to keep government funded and stuff like that, where in reality, like, it really just needs to be any government shutdown, whoever's causing it, like, they just don't get paid ever. Like, I would say, honestly, not only do they not get paid, they just get out of office for that. One's what it is for allowing the government to get shut down, is what it is then. So, and trying to fuck around with the American people is what it is then, and our livelihoods and ability to survive and stuff like that is what it is. So, but yeah, I think the only true solution right now is abolishment of certain state governments, and maybe even abolishment of federal government is what it is right now for a while. So, I don't know. I don't really want to be in like a warlord situation, but at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe that would be better, honestly. It would be a hell of a lot more interesting, honestly. So, but who knows, man? It's all just craziness. That's what it is. And yeah, I think we're just heading towards a really bad time in American history is what it is right now. We've been living in this world of, every generation is basically softer and softer than the last generation and more pussified than the last generation. And it seems like the only way to deal with anything right now is basically just, start dealing with the problems at hand is what it is there. So, and the truth of the matter is, like, really, when you look at even the First Amendment for that matter, like, there's a difference between obviously peaceful protesting and, like, obviously terrorist rioting is what it is. And the entire point of the First Amendment is to have the ability to have a register of grievances against your government is what it is there, where you can actually, like, have, like, a list of stuff where it's like, yeah, like, this is the problems I have with you guys, like, either fix it or get the fuck out, or we'll, kick you the fuck out is what it is then. And, there's a reason why our founding fathers went to war with the British Empire, and it's because they were not having representation. And I would say the truth of the matter right now is that's exactly what we're seeing again right now is what it is, where you have all these people who are obviously stealing power through voter fraud and everything else like that. They obviously don't give a fuck about you. They're openly committing insider trading. They're openly committing embezzlement and fraud and everything else like that and getting away with it. And it's like, what's even the point? Like I heard one the other day actually, where they're talking about ghost students now at universities, where you have these people that are foreign nationals or whatever the case be, who are stealing American citizens' identities and stuff like that. They are opening student loans. So they're applying for student loans. They're being granted these student loans of $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, whatever it is there, and then taking that money and disappearing and just walking away. And so you're putting like pretty much American citizens, or maybe like dead people into debt is what it is then, which my assumption is it's like basically dead people that have never had their social security numbers declared deceased or whatever then, if that be the case. Or it could even be newborns that are still on identities for all we know. So they're basically putting like kids that aren't even, college eligible into national debt is what it is right now, dude. And it does make you wonder, it's like, why are we even paying taxes right now is what it is, man. Like, it just seems retarded, honestly. So, which I know I said several years back now that I think a tax revolt could have worked back then, but I don't know if it could work now is what it is. I think there's too much fuckery afoot, and I don't think it would even matter at this point because you just have them print money is what it is there. One thing I do know, though, is that in the past several days, you've had gold go up to $5,500 an ounce. And I know silver's been kicking off. It's jumped to over $100 an ounce for like the last week or so. That's what it is. So, which is obviously impacting the petrodollar, which is all we need to have our currency backed by precious metals again, whether it be a gold standard or a silver standard or whatever the case be. Doesn't really matter because truthfully our gold standard was never a gold standard completely. It was a silver standard. But they just call it the gold standard. But yeah, we need to have back to that's what it is there, dude, because we actually had our money backed by that stuff. We could actually have a better country and we wouldn't have to worry about, if the petrodollar fails or not then, because we just have, precious metal backed currency, if that be the case then, or rare earth mineral backed currency or something. That's what it is then. So, but yeah, anyway, it is sad though to hear about the passing of Catherine O'Hara though. That is too bad. So I may have to go watch Home Alone or Home Alone 2 now, if that be the case then, just to do whatever then. I will be back tomorrow for another episode of Slicey Boy Saturday. Got a couple different things I want to talk about then. Got a couple new blades in right now. Got one that's I believe it is 154 cm is the, what you call it on it. Let me just check real quick. Actually, I got it right here. Oh. Yeah, I think a little fixed blade there. Yeah, it's 154 cm. It's a nice blade. We'll talk about it more tomorrow. So the price was a little bit more than I like to pay for the fixed blades and stuff like that, but at least it wasn't as much as it normally costs, and that's what I'll say about it. Because there's no way I would have paid its original cost and not been on sale for half price. So. But yeah, it's a good knife though. And I got a couple other ones that are D2, VG10, and a couple other different blaze deals. So we'll talk about all those tomorrow with this then, because they were definitely some sharp boys for sure. I got some of the things I got from Amazon here in my packages. These are like almost like a cardstock type of print offs compared to some of the other ones that used to be as regular paper. And I was able to bunch those up last night and like use to cut some with some D2 and some VG10 and stuff like that. And I'll tell you what, those knives are super, super sharp. Like they basically cut way through that, like almost through to some stuff under is what it was then. So like they slice through very, very easily, like almost like butter basically. So, but yeah, we'll talk about those tomorrow, what it is then. Along with that 154 CM is what it is there. So, but yeah, until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. Always be carrying. Always be situationally aware. Always know who your true enemies are. Do not trust politicians because they're all scumbags. And now really is the time to start, thinking about things. And of course, you got people jerking off Vivek. So, bunch of fucking clowns, man. I'll tell you what. Oh. Apparently, I guess the new Epstein files dropped that the DOJ did here today. Shows that Bill Gates was begging Jeffrey Epstein for antibiotics to discreetly slip into his then wife Melinda's, or to slip to his then wife Melinda after Gates contracted STDs from sex with the Russian girls. Fucking sick sons of bitches, man, for real. So, yeah, that's another thing too. Like, if we were truly a justified country right now, all these fucking elitist pedophiles like Gates and stuff would be in prison right now, is what it is. So, well, like I said, there's that video of him out there where he's literally talking about, oh, how do you combat China? America must work with India. It's like, the fuck we need to. You can fuck off too, bro. And actually, I was watching The Pit last night. Well, before I mentioned all that, I was watching The Pit last night, and I thought was interesting was the fourth episode there, because they were talking to this black woman, and they're like, "Oh, who would you prefer as a doctor?" And she's like, "A black person." I think she specifically said like a black woman or whatever the case be, and I'm like, "Yeah, but as in a real world, if I as a white man was like, yeah, I'd like a white doctor, look at me as I'm a racist or something like that, dude." And it's like, no, I just don't want some Indian guy shoving a fucking light thing into my ear and then into my fucking mouth with the same cap thing on it, which, by the way, happened to me back in 2021, because there was some Indian dude who was a rheumatologist here in Ohio who did that exact shit to me. And I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? And I guarantee this is one of these fucking guys that came over from India who got some bullshit degree over there, who paid like $3,000 or $4,000 for it to claim he was a doctor when he wasn't a fucking doctor at all. And this is exactly what people should have to take every single medical exam here in America before they ever are allowed to get into doctoring and stuff like that of any kind. So, yeah, just a bunch of nasty, nasty motherfuckers what it is, dude, for real. But yeah, I know that's the thing with Amazon right now is they're doing a bunch of AI stuff, and there's also a bunch of other places that are doing various things where they just want H-1Bs is what it is there, and it's because they can control these people is what it is, man. That's exactly why we see H-1B holders all over tech industry is what it is there, because it's a caste system they've created in the tech industry where it's like, oh, you do what the fuck we say or we're going to send you back and take away your visa is what it is there. And that's and meanwhile, that's why so many people are pissed, because at the same time, you've had a bunch of white folks, a bunch of Asian folks that are Americans who have gotten in the tech industry because they were told, or went to go get tech degrees is what it is there, because they were told like these jobs will exist for you. And meanwhile, we're being fucked over by the third world, what it is there. So, and it's like, yeah, Washington these people had to pay college loan debt back when they were told this one thing, and then they got fucked in the ass when it was all said and done. So it was, dude. So anyway, but that being said, that's pretty much where I'm at for the day. I will talk to you guys tomorrow with a new episode of Slicey Boy Saturday. Till then, I will see y'all later. Like I said, stay safe. If you're going out, actually, one thing I would suggest, because I know there's supposed to be another come this Thursday through the following Monday, there is supposed to be another storm coming. And I know there's also talk of like another storm in like Carolinas potentially and stuff like that this weekend is what it is there. So if you don't have food right now, I would suggest spending the day and going out there and doing like a grocery haul if you can, man, because now is the time to stock up on stuff before these storms hit again. Now is what it is, and get a couple weeks worth of food for sure. Or even in that same aspect, if you can get like overnight shipping stuff done with like My Patriot Supply or something like that, dude, just buy like one of those things, what it is then, and get yourself like a month's worth of like prep food stuff and just eat that as what it is then. So I got enough stuff on hand right now that will probably last me for, I would say, at least through the storm anyway. I got enough. So I got some stuff in the mail yesterday, even from an Amazon order. It wasn't the best stuff. It was a bunch of candy, but still, like, that could keep me going for a little bit there as well as what it is there. But you know, I know I need to lose weight at some point here, but it's one of those things, man, where, you know, it's so hard to do that. So anyway, but yeah, I'm gonna go. I gotta call my cousin, see what he's got going on right now, because I called him earlier today to try to bring me a plunger because my toilet here is not working correctly right now. Is what it is. I think maybe I got a little bit too much stuff in the thing last night or something, and it's not wanting to drain properly or flush properly, which I think it just needs plunged out. Is what it is. I don't have a plunger on hand. Is fortunately the problem. So, and I guarantee my landlord wouldn't bring one out to me. So, or if we need like a snake situation, he'd probably be like a week from now, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, we can get some other a week or something." Then if that'd be the case, it's like, "There's no way now, bro." So I'll do what I need to do. Is what it is there. So, but yeah, no, I'm not gonna take those GLP-1s and stuff like that at all. So there's no reason for me to take that kind of stuff. I like to eat. I just don't like to, you know, fortunately with my bad knee and stuff like that, it's hard to exercise what it is there. So, but anyway, on that note, though, like I said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. All that good stuff. And yeah, always be situationally aware. Don't go to riot-ish events, call them protests, and then wonder why you get shot when you're trying to obstruct official business. So anyway, but yeah, until later, I will see you guys tomorrow for a new episode of Slicey Boy Saturday. It'll be around this time. And yeah, we'll talk more about that F and Glow. We'll talk about a new dispatch that I got. Talk about some new flusses and stuff like that, and so forth and so on. So, till later. I will see you guys on the next one. Peace out. Later.